What's going on? Oh, I was frozen there for a second. What's going on, everybody? It is your boy, Baddog here with another edition. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying. I'm getting ready to do an intro for my own channel. What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of the Giants Collective. The band is back together again. We have Adriana down there, Anthony over there, and of course, Entertainah down there. It's like a great episode of Hollywood Squares. I dated myself with that. And you guys remember Hollywood Squares? Yes, no?
Maybe I think so. I remember the reboot when they brought it back. I don't remember the original.
I do. So that's how old I am. Anyway, hope you all had a fantastic weekend. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. If you want to do us a favor, hit the thumbs up right away when you come in here. It helps out the stream. Subscribe to the channel. They don't cost anything to do. You can check us out on TikTok and Instagram. You can also check us out wherever you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and of course, Apple. If you listen to us on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That also helps us out greatly. And as always, want to give a big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring Giants Collective tonight. And I want you guys and girls to check out Sleeper because they got some really cool things going on with Sleeper. They just added a prediction market and they just added where you can pick teams. So if you wanted to pick the Knicks to win a game, you could pick the Knicks. If you wanted to pick the Spurs, which you should because the entire Laker starting lineup is out tonight, you can do that too. You can do like I said, you can do prediction markets. They have daily fantasy contests all the time. You can also do some over-under on stats. Hit that link in the description. Enter the promo code HMA to get a 100% match deposit bonus on your first deposit. And if you don't have a Sleeper account, you want to try out the prediction market, picking teams, picking over-under on stats, whatever you want to do, play some daily fantasy contests, they got you covered. Just use our link, open a brand new account. They give you $20 to play with, no questions asked. Terms and conditions apply. Have some fun, win some cash, and just remember that past victories don't guarantee future results. So just remember that when you're playing that prediction market. Okay, speaking of, predictions and over/under and stats and all the stuff. Well, the football season has come to an end, and it was anticlimactic would be the word I'd use for it. A Super Bowl 60 was an absolute dud. So at least that was my opinion of it. Adriana, what did you think of the Super Bowl? Give us your takeaways from Seattle Seahawks winning their second Super Bowl. Really should have been their third, but we all know what happened the last time these two teams met in the Super Bowl.
My husband is a Pats fan, so it was glorious. I made a video before the game that I was like, these are all the ways I'm going to rage bait my husband during the game as a Giants fan. And I was like, every time someone drops the ball, I'm going to say, oh, I didn't realize Darius Slayton was a Patriot. Anytime an offensive lineman gets beat or ends up on the ground, do you think he's taking lessons with Evan Neal? Anytime a coach messes up, makes a questionable decision, do you think Brian Dable gave him some advice? And then I had one more, I forgot what it was, but then as the game was going on, I was like, oh, I can't say any of these out loud. They're not going to go over well. I did say the Evan Neal one, and he was just quiet, just gave me nothing. So yeah, it was kind of funny. He went into the game being like, I think that the Pats are going to get blown out. And I actually thought it was going to be closer than he did. But the way that the game was going, I was just like, first of all, I thought Seattle was at least going to put up more points. Like the fact that their kicker had the most kicks from a Super Bowl, I think, ever was pretty crazy. They were moving the ball so well that I thought for sure it was going to be like 35 points or more, the way that they were going. But what I enjoyed about it was that it really felt like a true defensive battle. And I think people like us who spend so much time watching the Giants and watching football and paying attention to the schemes and what the players are doing in this, like, I really enjoyed watching the defenses go at it. Especially because there were 4 players on Seattle's defense, 2 who were former Giants who we all know and love, and 2 who were former Gamecocks. So I was like, this is like rooting for my own team. It kind of felt like it was really fun to watch those guys. I mean, Julian Love with the interception, Nick Emanwari being an absolute freak show. Even like Devon Witherspoon, every time he made a play, the only thing I can think about was him with the pick six,
yeah,
like talking shit about him. But I was like, God damn it, this guy's so freaking good. But so it was really fun to watch from that perspective. Just like watching good football players be good at what they do. Leonard Williams with the sack, Ernest Jones making plays. So it was fun from that perspective, although I did expect it from an offensive perspective to be a little bit more competitive. But I'm just happy that the Pats lost. Like, I know a lot of Pats fans, and just watching them suffer has been really, really enjoyable after all the shit talking that they've done for the last few months. So this was great.
I just saw this in the comment section, so I just wanted to put this up here. Just so you know, we have good sponsors here.
Oh.
Pino says, yo, let me tell you, I bought 2 pairs of jeans and 2 pairs of joggers. Doers, good call, Bet. Well, not good call me, good call Giants Collective, good call Doers for sponsoring the show. But yes, so I told you, man, Doers they're good. We have good sponsors on this channel without question. So I got to check them all out, man. They won't lead you wrong. They won't lead you astray.
I wore my Doer jeans yesterday. Big fan. I love them.
There you go. See, and I love the boots are amazing. All right. So,
I haven't gotten the boots. I got the jeans.
I got that mixed up with something else. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Got a different pair of boots. Anthony, what was your takeaway from the Super Bowl?
My biggest takeaway for next season for the Giants is special teams wins. Jay Harbaugh, special teams coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, son of Jim Harbaugh. The Giants should have been keeping tabs on the Seahawks all postseason and seeing how the turnover battle and special teams won them every single one of their postseason games. Whether you're talking about the kicker putting up a historic number of points or the punter flipping the field the way that he was. I think he had 3 punts fielded inside the 10-yard line in that Super Bowl. Special teams really made the difference in that game. It forced the Patriots to have to go on some very long drives, and they kept the ball clean. First team in NFL history to not commit a single turnover and win the Super Bowl and a full postseason run. It was incredible stuff by the Seattle Seahawks. They're a well-coached football team. And I think if you're looking at it from a Giants fan's perspective, this team needs to improve in special teams. They were okay last year, but they need to get better, need to fix the kicker position. That's for damn sure. Probably need to upgrade a punter, and they also need to be a well-coached football team. And thankfully, we feel as though they will be now with John Harbaugh and a really good coaching staff that he's building so far. So from a Giants fan's perspective, that was my takeaway. From a fan's perspective, it was a pretty boring game, but I thought there were some exciting moments. And for a second there, when the Patriots were down 12 or were they down 19, then they scored that touchdown, I thought it might get a little interesting, but then it just didn't. Julian Love, former Giant, shut the door on that. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Leonard Williams. I'm happy for Jay Harbaugh since now he's in the family of John Harbaugh and the Giants. So I thought it was, some good storylines. I'm thrilled by Sam Darnold. I think that is just one of the best stories to come out of the NFL in recent seasons. And I think Kenneth Walker is going to get paid a lot of money this offseason after a great Super Bowl performance because he's an unrestricted free agent. So there was a lot to like from the Super Bowl. It wasn't the best game by any means, but again, a lot to like, and it was a pretty cool moment for a lot of those players.
Chris, what was your takeaway from Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty bored, if I'm being honest. Like Anthony said, there were bits and pieces. What stood out it reminded me of the Giants over the last 5 or 6 years when we would have Daniel Jones at quarterback and we would leave in 6 guys to block and the opposing defense would only rush 4 and they would still get constant pressure. The Seattle Seahawks throughout the course of that game, it didn't matter how many guys the Patriots left in the block. The Seahawks were getting pressure constantly by only sending 4 rushers, which is why their coverage was so good. And Darnold is infamous. I forget, was it against us? I don't even remember when he on the sideline when he said I felt like I was seeing ghosts. I thought Drake May was seeing ghosts in that game because of all the pressure. He got exposed. I still think he's a tremendously talented quarterback, but was not his best day. He played horrible in that game and deserves all the the ridicule that he's getting. But yeah, ultimately it felt like the 07 Giants to me with that pass rush by the Seattle Seahawks, constantly getting pressure throughout that game. That to me should have been obviously Walker had a great game, like Anthony said, but to me the real impactful force that won that game for Seattle was that front four, them getting pressure as constantly as they were. And it was good to see Leo and Love both get a Super Bowl ring.
To me, it just goes to show defense still wins in this league. And we know that the game wasn't close last year, but we also know that wasn't because, the Eagles offense kind of got caught fire in the second half, but we all know how great their defense was. They didn't blitz one time. They sacked Mahomes 6 or 7 times. They were in there constantly, and that's exactly what happened to Drake May. And the Patriots faced some of the toughest defenses in the league throughout the playoffs. That's why Drake May struggled. I'm not going to sit here and go Drake May sucks. Obviously, that's all over Twitter. it's recency bias. It's all this stuff. But I mean, he had an incredibly tough road without question. But the thing is here, the reason I picked Seattle to win by 10, which was what my prediction, I think I did 27-17, was because Seattle was the most complete team they played. I mean, you look at the other offenses, the Patriots have a good defense, but you look at the other offenses they played, they were terrible. And if Bo Nix would have played in Denver probably would have won that football game, if we're being completely honest. It's not to take anything away from Drake May and the season the Patriots had. Remember, that team won, 4 games last year, and they're in the Super Bowl. Kind of happened to the Bengals, too. They were a team that won 4 games, and they went to the Super Bowl. And they both ended up losing with a young quarterback. So Joe Burrow hasn't been back since. You never guaranteed to get back there. Marino was there in a second year, and he never got back there. So it's not easy to get there. When you get there, you want to capitalize. Seattle was just too good. I mean, they just were. And I don't even think Darnold played well. I think Darnold missed a shitload of throws. I thought he was seeing ghosts again. He threw some really dangerous passes that could
early on. He did. Yeah, early on.
Yeah, were not picked off. And I said, wow, they've gotten a lot of breaks. But very happy for Leonard Williams, happy for Julian Love, and I'm happy for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold really struggled with the Jets for years, and I think he went to Carolina for a cup of coffee. He went to Minnesota, resurrected his career. Vikings fans probably, kicking themselves in the ass, or the Vikings are kicking themselves in the ass for not signing him. He went to Seattle. He had a great year. He's a Super Bowl champion. So I thought the game was boring. It reminded me a lot of the Rams Patriots Super Bowl that you and I streamed years ago, Chris. And it's all I could think about was all the amount of punts that were going. And I like good defense. I love a good defensive game, but I just felt like it just wasn't played well from an offensive perspective at all. Outside of Kenneth Walker, I thought he was fantastic, but I don't know. It wasn't, like I said, it didn't really resonate with me. It's a forgettable Super Bowl. I streamed it. Thank God I had the chat to keep me entertained. And that, like I said before we went live, the best thing about that was I didn't think there was a chance in hell I was going to hit a Super Bowl square, and I ended up with 9-3 at the end because the Pats scored a meaningless touchdown. I missed a 2-point conversion, and I got very lucky. And on top of that, I won the Super Bowl Texas Hold'em tournament that we played for like 25 years. So that was a good day for me. The game, however, wasn't very good. But that is the end of the 2025 season. And although as Giants fans, we've been looking forward to 2026 since about the middle of October. Now we can really look forward to it. Like Anthony said, special teams obviously is a huge deal. We know that. How many times have we missed kicks, like field goals? Graham Gano, always hurt. Punter, no good. It's definitely a big deal, as is the defense. And we know that if our defense would have held up in a few games this year, we would have won a lot more than 4 games as well. So hopefully all this changes with John Harbaugh and Denard Wilson and the rest of the New York Giants coaching staff, which the next item up for bids is Brian Callahan got an interview for the quarterback coaching position. Anthony, you got any takeaways from Brian Callahan if he gets the job?
Yeah, I think this would be a pretty good hiring for the Giants. Listen, Brian Callahan wasn't a good head coach. When they interviewed him for offensive coordinator, it wasn't a name that generated a lot of excitement for me because when he was the OC for the Cincinnati Bengals, he didn't call plays. When he did call plays for the Tennessee Titans, he called them poorly. But one thing that he did do when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals, he helped develop Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has said it himself. If you search up what Joe Burrow has had to say about Brian Callahan, Burrow is basically the reason that Callahan got that Titans head coaching job because of how hard he vouched for Brian Callahan as being a close mentor and developer of his game. That's how he got that job. And that's not the only quarterback that he's helped develop. When he was coaching Matthew Stafford in 2016 and 2017 as the Lions QB coach, those were some of the best seasons of Matthew Stafford's career. That was when he really started to turn a corner in that second half of his career. And then when he was with Derek Carr, 2018, Derek Carr threw for 4,000 yards, which was the most that he ever had with the Oakland Raiders at the time. So Callahan's always managed to get the most out of quarterbacks up until he got to Tennessee. But I think we've said this many times on the show. Some guys just aren't cut out to be head coaches. Some guys are really good OCs. Some guys are really good assistant coaches, position coaches, like a QB coach. And I think that might be the case for Callahan. So the Giants clearly have a point of emphasis here, which is to bring experience onto this coaching staff. a former head coach as the OC in Matt Nagy, a former OC as the senior offensive assistant Greg Roman, and now potentially a former head coach as the QB coach. This is pretty much the Giants saying we're going to put as much experience and as much talent on the sideline to coach up Jackson Dart and give him just a nurturing environment to develop him. Nagy's gotten, kind of praise for developing Mahomes in the past. And then you've got Greg Roman, who got praise for developing a lot of running backs and offensive linemen in the past. And then you've got Callahan, who got praise for developing all those guys I just mentioned, chief among them being Joe Burrow. So I think it would be a really great hiring. And I think that it would be an exciting kind of proposition for Jackson Dart to get a guy who's coached a quarterback that I think has some overlap, some skill set that's similar than him with Joe Burrow in terms of arm strength and needing to learn how to read the field better like Burrow did when he got to the league. And Dart kind of needs the same thing. So maybe Callahan can help in that regard. So I would like to hire. We'll see if it happens. I know there's other names on the short list, but that interview happened today. And that would probably be my favorite pick for QB coach, if I'm being honest.
Chris, what do you think about Brian Callahan as a possible candidate?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to what Anthony said. I think it follows, like Anthony said, I think it follows the pattern of what Harbaugh has brought in here, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball, maybe he's not quite as experienced in terms of the DC to what the offensive coaches are, but I think it's really important, like Anthony has discussed before, how we screwed up Daniel Jones. It wasn't necessarily the coaching change after his first year. It was the fact that you brought in Joe Judge and Jason Garrett. I think if by bringing in all these experienced coaches that have been offensive coordinators, that have been former head coaches, it's only going to help further Jackson Dart's development in an imperative year or two where you're changing coaching staffs. I think would be a really good hire. It doesn't always work out, but you're talking about a guy like Anthony said, who the reason why he got the head coaching job to begin with was because he was credited with the upbringing of Joe Burrow. And he's not going to be calling plays here. He's the quarterback coach. So, I saw people on Twitter saying, "Oh, he didn't call the plays with the Cincinnati Bengals when he had Burrow at quarterback." Who gives a shit? He's not going to be calling the plays here either. He's going to be a guy that you're bringing in here to hopefully, further develop your young quarterback. And he's a guy that has a bit of a track record there, an experienced guy around the league. And with Harbaugh's experience in terms of building staffs, as I've said, I'm going to trust Harbaugh. And yeah, I think the majority of fans, this would be one of the first hires, I think, where the majority of fans would be in sync with being happy about that hire since John Harbaugh has become the head coach, of course. A lot of fans seem to be split on a lot of these hires. I think most fans would be happy with this one.
Adriana, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree. Anthony pointed out, he's worked with some really good quarterbacks. I think that when it comes to the Giants, where they're at right now, they just need a lot of coaches with experience. And I think that that's exactly what Brian Callahan brings to the table. Like Chris said, too, he's not going to be calling the plays. So who cares about that? We needed him to come in as a quarterback coach and help develop Jackson Dart and take him to the next level. And he's already proven that he's capable of doing that. So I think the experience that he has, the quarterbacks that he's worked with, the way that he's been able to try and take them from one place to the next, help them improve, and all of the stats and everything has shown that he's been capable of doing that. That's enough for me to feel good about bringing him in as a quarterback coach. Obviously, head coaching experience. We've all talked about this with Dable, with Matt Nagy. Like the stories go on, is that sometimes these guys are great at certain things and they're just not great at being a head coach, and that's it. And I was thinking about the same thing when, we briefly talked about Ray Hanley today. Same thing. He was a great offensive coach and then not so great as a head coach. And sometimes that just happens. These guys are better at certain things than others. And I think that Callahan's going to be able to help Jackson Dart with all of that.
Yeah. You mentioned Ray Hanley, former Giants head coach. Ray Hanley passed away today at the age of 81. And I know that Giants fans my age, maybe a little younger and definitely older, remember, they will tell you that there was, they talk about the dark days of Ray Hanley. And the funny thing is, they weren't nearly as dark as the Joe Judge, Pat Shurmur days and the end of Brian Dable's career. I mean, Ray Hanley's first year, he was 8-8 as the Giants head coach, and then they were 6-10, and they ultimately got rid of him. But that Giants team in 1991, the one after the Super Bowl, they were an older team. They lost some players to free agency, and they had a lot of injuries on that team as well. But once a Giant, always a Giant. So rest in peace, Ray Hanley. I don't have much to add to the thing with Brian Callahan. What I can say is, Anthony mentioned it, I think what we've seen this offseason with the Giants and their head coach, the coordinators, everything else, it's all about experience. There's a lot of experience on this coaching staff. And as a young group of guys, which is what the New York Giants are, I believe their average age is one of the youngest in football. We know that their young core of players is extremely talented. Malik Neighbors, Jackson Dart, obviously Abdul Carter falls in that list. And I don't know if we're getting Wan'Dale Robinson back, but he's another one that's really talented. Obviously, Andrew Thomas is kind of in the prime of his career. He's incredibly talented. Dexter Lawrence is incredibly talented. He's been around for a few years. Cam Scadaboo, I think, can be fantastic. Tyrone Tracy's a little older, but the Giants have a lot of talent, and I feel like you needed some direction with a younger team, and I just feel like that's kind of what the Giants have done. I feel like that's what John Harbaugh is doing. He's bringing in the most experienced coaches, guys that he's worked with, guys that have had success at different levels in the NFL. So I'm very anxious to see exactly how this plays out on paper. Again, when we hired Matt Nagy as offense coordinator, and a lot of Giants fans were upset. They didn't blow me away by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I want to see how it turns out on the field. We can look at everything on paper, go, that was the wrong pick, that we should have done this, we should have done that. Well, we'll see what happens in September. But I like the way the Giants are going. I think experience is going to pay off for these young guys. And then they just got to do it on the field. I mean, that's what it is. They got to execute on the field. They got to make tackles. They got to hold on to leads. They got to kick fucking field goals. They can't be punting the ball in the end zone from midfield. They got to learn how to pin them deep. They got to learn to get better angles of pursuit to tackling. There's a lot they have to work on. But I feel like an experienced coaching staff can get the most out of these players. Real quick before we get to the chat, I just, obviously, like I said, the season's over. And I know we've kind of touched on free agency, which happens in about a month from now. Chris, is there one player, like if you could, I don't know if you know all the free agents, but out of the ones you do, if there's one player you could say you want to come back to the Giants, I kind of tip my cap there. One player you thought the Giants could go after, who is it?
Well, if we're talking about guys that are not
any guy. I said come back because
we've discussed at great lengths, what players we would like to come back, but all bets are off as far as that goes because you got a new head coach, you got an entirely new coaching staff. We all wanted Brasillo back. That didn't happen because Harbaugh didn't feel like he fit the vision of his team. So we could all want Illuminor back, we could all want Flott back, we could all want Wan'Dale back, and I do think at least one or two of those guys will probably be back, but there's no guarantees that any of those guys are back. Harbaugh's going to build the team the way that he sees fit. My mindset on Illuminor is this. If you don't bring back Illuminor, I'm going to be pounding the table to take a tackle at 5th overall for the Giants. That I think they need to at that point. So I'm okay if they don't keep Illuminor, if the plan is to draft a tackle early in this year's draft. But if that is not the plan, I think you have to bring Illuminor back. That's just my opinion on the matter, especially with a young quarterback. You want to be able to get him off on the right foot. So we'll see what they elect to do. But if they don't bring Illuminor back, I'm going to be saying, okay, we're taking a tackle with that 5th pick. That's going to be my opinion, at least. As far as I think it's more likely than not that I think I'm super confident in it, but as I've said, I think there's a decent chance Wan'Dale is back, but we'll see how the market develops. In terms of the outside free agents, I think you're looking at former Ravens as the most probable guys that the New York Giants will bring in due to the ties, obviously, to Harbaugh. He coached there for 18 years. Linderbaum's been one of the more popular names in terms of the more established free agents that are available from there. Of course, the tight end, the punter there is one of the better punters in the league. I would like to bring him in possibly, but I think you're looking at former Ravens as guys that the Giants will likely target for potential outside acquisitions. Guys that have been with Harbaugh before are drawn by his system and his coaching style.
Adriana, what do you think?
To me, Jermaine Illuminor is the number one priority for guys that you have to bring back. There are a lot of guys that I think should be brought back. I think Belton, McFadden, Cordell Flott, some of these guys that you can bring in on cheaper deals, Daniel Bellinger. We really need to stack up the depth with this team, and we just don't have enough draft picks to do it. So that's where I would start. I'm fine if they want to bring in former Ravens like Isaiah Likely. We do need help with the tight end position and Patrick Ricard. I'm not on board with paying for Linderbaum. I don't think that they're going to cut JMS when he's on a rookie deal. He still has one more year left. They have new offensive line coaches. And, as of right now, you don't have a right guard and a right tackle. So I just don't think that spending $20 million on a center is a good idea. And I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. So other than that, the other guys that they want to bring in from the Ravens, I'm fine with. That's what I'm expecting them to do is we've seen with the coaching staff is that they're bringing in guys that they've worked with and they're familiar with. And I think the exact same situation is going to happen with the players come March. And again, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't think investing in $20 million in Linderbaum makes a lot of sense for where this offensive line is at right now.
Anthony, you got any guys you want the Giants to bring in?
Well, I would like them to re-sign Jermaine Illuminor, depending on the price tag. I think Connor Hughes said his price tag could be around 7 to 10 million, but then everybody else is saying his price tag could be around 20 million. So if it falls somewhere in the middle of that, I'll take it. So, let's see what Jermaine Illuminor's market is like. He is past 30, and he is truthfully a slightly above average right tackle. I know a lot of people, Giants fans, love to say that he's like the best things in sliced bread, and I get it because we watched Evan Neal and Eric Flowers at right tackle all those years. So average to above looks great, but he is only slightly above average. So maybe he doesn't end up with that $20 million range. So I like Jermaine Illuminor to be a re-sign candidate, but in terms of open market free agents from other teams, I've said it once, I'll say it again, go after Jordan Stout. The best punter in the NFL makes $5 million per season. The Giants are wasting $5 million a season and more on guys like James Hudson. Stop signing guys like that and go invest in special teams and bring in a really good punter, because as we just saw throughout this entire postseason, an elite punter can change the game for your team. So Ravens guy, first team All-Pro, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. That's Harbaugh's guy right there. I'd really like to see Jordan Stout get signed. And Isaiah Likely, I think, is a great value signing because, yes, he's an upgrade at tight end, but you could also argue that he's an upgrade at WR2 for the Giants because he does play a lot of wide receiver and tight ends. But WR2s make $20+ million per season. Like Wan'Dale Robinson is probably going to get close to $20 million per season. If Wan'Dale Robinson walks in free agency, you can sign Isaiah Likely for half the price and upgrade both at wide receiver and tight end at the same time because he plays both of those positions. So Isaiah Likely is a guy that I like. And then one name on the trenches, I do like Wyatt Teller. I just saw that Lucas said Wyatt Teller, and that was somebody I was planning on bringing up. He's got familiarity, of course, with the new offensive line coach, Mike Bloomgren, and he's a pretty damn good player. Been to 3 Pro Bowls in the past, I believe. So those are the guys off the top of my head, but there's going to be a lot of guys out there, and free agency is less than a month away now. So it's going to be really fun to see what the Giants do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I saw somebody in the chat say Tyrone Tracy's young because he's played one more season in Scat. Tyrone Tracy was 25 in the Giants draft, and he'll be 27 this year. That is,
and he's a running back.
Right, that's not very young for a running back.
Yeah.
I know he's only been in the league. This will be his 3rd year, but he was drafted very late out of college. So 27 is not really a young guy. Daniel Jones was drafted how many years before him, and they're like the same age. So, yeah, he was drafted out of college late. You guys know the first person I say is Nakobe Dean. I'm just a big Nakobe Dean fan. We have struggled at linebacker forever here, and I know Nakobe Dean's had some health issues and injuries. We're obviously a concern with him, but I think that also could drive his price tag down a little bit. I just love him. I think he's such an impactful player. He's one of the best blitzing linebackers out there. He is totally disruptive in the running game. I mean, the guy is he's a game wrecker when he's healthy. I absolutely love him. I loved him at Georgia. I wanted the Giants to draft him. And I would love to take somebody from the Philadelphia Eagles for a change. Lord knows they like to take our players, even though there's only been one that's really had an impact. But it'd be nice to turn the tables on them and get a guy like Nakobe Dean. Other than that, you guys mentioned Jermaine Illuminor. This is the first time we've had a top 30. You could say we were top 10, top 12, but we're in the top third of the league in offensive line. He's a major reason we were. You really don't want to break up that chemistry, especially with a young quarterback. And if we don't draft the right tackle, which again, I think the Titans are going to take. I never know. How the hell do you say that guy's last name from Miami? Last name.
Mayuga, I think it is, right?
I don't know how to say it. Whatever his last name. I don't want to pronounce it, but the tackle from Miami, I think he's going to go to Tennessee. I think Arvell Reese is going to go to the Jets. So I think we're looking at a wide receiver, Caleb Downs, at that first pick, honestly. But Illuminor is a guy. Flott is obviously a guy, unless they decide to go Mansour Delane, which is another name we've heard at cornerback. So when people talk about mock drafts, it's difficult not knowing what a roster is before we get to the draft. But I would love to bring Wan'Dale Robinson back, not for $20 million a year. I think that's a little bit pricey. The Giants don't really have a lot of cap space this year, but they do next year. And obviously you can push some of it back, and maybe they do that. But having 1,000-yard season, and I think Anthony's mentioned this. If it wasn't Anthony, it was one of you two. People call him a slot receiver, but he can play outside. Like, he's not just strictly a slot receiver. He can do a lot of different things, and he had great rapport with Jackson Dart. But I think you guys have also mentioned with Malik Neighbors coming back, obviously he's not going to have as many targets. And then do you want to pay a guy $18 million if he's going to have half the targets that he had? So there's a lot of decisions to make. That's why we do this show. That's why John Harbaugh and Joe Schoen have the jobs that they do. And we're here to criticize them or praise them. But it'll be interesting to see exactly what the Giants do. If we don't bring back Bellinger, obviously Isaiah Likely is definitely a guy that they can look at. I agree with all you guys on the punter. Special teams is such an overlooked aspect of football. It really is. There's so much hidden yardage you lose or gain with a good special teams. And Lord knows we haven't had good special teams in years. It would be nice to have that third aspect of your football team and have a complete team. So it'll be interesting, but I pound the table for Nakobe Dean. Get that son of a bitch in here and let him kill his former team. That would be awesome. So with that said, again, there's not too much to talk about. We're about a month away from free agency, which that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Obviously, when we get to free agency and we know some of the moves that the Giants make, we'll have a lot to discuss at that point. Well, let's get to some of these questions from the chat. Eddie, thank you so much, my friend. He says, what exactly does Theo Johnson do better than Bellinger? Our offense was at its best and Slayton was hurt this year, Broncos and Eagles. It is crucial that we upgrade our wide receiver too.
Theo Johnson's significantly taller, significantly faster, and significantly cheaper than Daniel Bellinger. That's why he's going to start at tight end next year. Bellinger's going to hit free agency, so he's automatically going to end up making more than Theo Johnson does on his rookie contract. He's older. He's less athletic. He's got everything going against him when comparing him to Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson is the better player, and Giants fans love to rag on Theo Johnson because he dropped a couple of passes. It's only his second season. I think you got to cut the kid some slack. He also led the team in receiving touchdowns. Everybody loves to forget that. So you want to look at the drops, but you don't want to look at the impact plays and the touchdowns. He's also Jackson Dart's best friend on the team. They have incredible chemistry. That game-winning pass against the Chargers was an on-the-fly play that Jackson Dart and Theo Johnson made together. Brian Dable wasn't even involved in that, or Mike Kafka. That was just Theo Johnson and Jackson Dart. So the chemistry is there. The developmental prospects are there with his athleticism and height and size. I think he can improve as a blocker and definitely can improve his hands, but I think he's a pretty good player. And Theo Johnson, I would much rather him than Daniel Bellinger personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think your third point is the main reason why Daniel Bellinger's most likely won't be back here with the New York Giants next year. Just the price. I mean, you still have Theo Johnson under cost control for the next 2 years. I think what was he, a fourth-round pick? So he's not making a whole lot of money for the next 2 years for the Giants. And they're completely different types of players, too. Like, I think Bellinger is stronger at blocking. I think Bellinger is more of your old school prototypical tight end. But like you said, Anthony, Theo is more like in line with a guy like a Likely, a guy with a much better pass catcher, a guy that could do multiple things, in terms of a pass catching standpoint. And yeah, his upside is clearly higher than Bellinger. And because Bellinger's a free agent, I don't expect to see him back here next year with the New York Giants. You can draft a guy like Bellinger in the 4th or 5th round of this year's draft and pay them next to nothing rather than bring back Bellinger. So I'd be surprised if Bellinger's back.
Yeah, I would bring back Bellinger. I feel like he can't possibly cost that much money. But if they bring in Isaiah Likely, then I'm fine.
Of course,
not being Bellinger. So I think it's just going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. But Bellinger was super productive his rookie year and then kind of just fell off when the offensive line was so bad and they needed him to block even better. So I feel like him and Theo would be a good duo. Like if they both got enough targets, good amount of playing time. Like I think they play well together in that sense, but we're probably not going to see that this year. So
yeah, I think Theo does a lot of things offensively better than Bellinger outside of blocking. And sure, he drops some passes. Everybody on this team dropped passes. But like Anthony mentioned, he was, our team's leader in receiving touchdowns. And again, he's like 6'5". He runs a sub 4.640. He's very athletic. He reminds me a lot of it's Evan Ingram. I mean, that's really, you can compare him to Evan Ingram, who had a world of talent, just could never hang on to the football. But when he does, he's incredibly effective. So it's just a matter of dropping passes is just a matter of concentration. That's really all it is. I mean, these guys can catch the football. They just got to go through the process of the catch. Stop taking your eye off the ball and trying to run before you have it. Make sure you have the ball first. Theo Johnson shores up his hands. He's a massive weapon, especially in the red zone for the Giants. So I do think he's a better overall offensive player than Bellinger. And to their point, being a 4th-round pick, he doesn't cost the Giants anything. And no doubt Harbaugh is going to favor Isaiah Likely over Daniel Bellinger. So I would be very surprised if Bellinger was back. To your second point, I agree 100%. The Giants have to upgrade that wide receiver too. We're going into a year where our number 2 receiver is Slayton, maybe even our number 1, depending on how healthy Malik Neighbors is to start the year. That wide receiving core looks like shit right now. There's no Gunner. He's a free agent. There's no Wandale. He's a free agent. So you're going in there with Isaiah Hodgins. I don't even know if he's under contract. I don't think he is. So he's not under contract. So you got like Bo Collins, you got Cambray, you got freaking you got Neighbors coming off an ACL, you got Slate. That is in Hyatt. I don't know if I mentioned him. If I didn't, I know Anthony was happy.
You shouldn't know.
But nobody that wide receiver room is bad. They have to shore that up. I feel like they got to draft one at some point in the draft, and they got to sign somebody, whether it's Wandale Robinson, whether it's somebody else. Alec Pierce, whatever, they got to bring in another wide receiver. They have to. They absolutely have to do that. Quarterback is going into his second season. You can't have one really top receiver that's, like I said, coming off an ACL. You got to give that guy some stability, some guys that can make some plays out there. So they definitely have to upgrade that. But we'll see. I was so high on Slayton going into this year, and he let me down big time. The Giants let us all down this year, so he just kind of fell right into line with the rest of them. Jason, thank you, buddy. He says, I'm still team build the trenches outside of offensive line. I want this defensive front solidified. Seattle ran a 9-man D-line rotation. Keep Kayvon Thibodeau, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, every year you try to – I think fans always try to take a lesson out of the Super Bowl, why the team won and how they should build their team. And you go back, you look at the Pat Mahomes Super Bowl where he got destroyed. I think it was against the Bucs because they couldn't block. It was the same thing in this game. Football at the end of the day is still a game that's won and lost in the trenches, and that's why I love the 300-pound men. And it's why I'm always pounding the table to try to improve both sides of the ball up at the line of scrimmage. So, yeah, Seattle dominated on the defensive end with their front four against the offensive line of the New England Patriots in that game. And ultimately, like I said earlier, I think that's the main reason why they won that game. You want to win games consistently in the NFL, you got to win up at the point of attack. And I think any football fan would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know that, teams are built in the trenches, and that's something that we obviously still have to focus on, which is why I am now back to being very concerned about the offensive line until we re-sign Jermaine Illuminor or know that we have some sort of plan at right guard and right tackle. Because right now, I don't know what it is. We've got a new offensive line staff, which I think is going to be good, but we don't know until they actually get started. So I'm concerned about both. Roy Robertson Harris, some of these other guys are going to be free agents, not Joe. So you've got Dexter Lawrence, who we don't even know if he's happy and still wants to be here. He obviously wants to be paid more money. We don't know if they're going to do that. And, I like Darius Alexander, and I think he's going to be a good option at some point for defensive lineman next to Dexter, but he's not even close to being that good of a football player right now, at least to play every down, help stop the run, do things like that. So we still need to build up the trenches. I think a defensive lineman is more important than what we do about Kayvon, because we have Burns and we have Abdul Carter. Keeping Kayvon is obviously a nice benefit to have. I just don't know if that's something that we're going to be able to have beyond this year. They're not, in my opinion, they're not paying Kayvon. I just don't think they're extending him on a long-term deal along with paying Burns and having drafted Carter. So I think we're probably going to see Kayvon traded at some point if they're smart, because if you're not going to keep him, you have to get something for him. So I don't know. To me, I just like the offensive and the defensive line still needs to be the priority. As much as I love Caleb Downs and I love Carnell Tate and would love those guys at 5. I'm like, if you don't re-sign Illuminor, I just don't know how you don't take Francis Mauigoa or Spencer Fano at 5.
You have to. If you don't keep Illuminor, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we know Marcus Bowe has gotten some good reps, but he's been the swing tackle. So if you move Marcus Bowe to right tackle to be the starter, still, who's the right guard? And
there is no, I will flip, and they will not do that, but I will flip out if the Giants do that. You're bringing Dart into a new offense, and you're going to have his right tackle be a guy that, is a complete project at best. No, that can't happen. It's like you said, it's either Illuminor or we're drafting a tackle with that 5th pick.
But even still, like, look at the Patriots. I mean, Will Campbell was a top, they picked him 4?
Yeah.
And I know they made it to the Super Bowl, but
last night or 2 nights ago, yeah.
The left tackle and the left guard struggled all game, and Will Campbell has struggled quite a bit throughout this year. So I'm just like, are we going to feel good going into a season if we have a rookie right tackle and Marcus Bowe is the right guard? Or like if we have Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle, then maybe we have a rookie right guard. Like at some point, one of those guys is likely to be a rookie, and I just think it's going to be hard to feel like real great about the right side of the offensive line if they're just picking rookies.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, if they don't sign Illuminor, they're drafting him right. There's no way. We know the Harbaughs love.
I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't predict it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they took a right tackle, even if they kept Illuminor, because like we've talked about before, Illuminor is only going to be here probably for 2 more years if they sign him. I would lean more towards the defense if they sign Illuminor, but I wouldn't even rule out a tackle at 5 even if they kept Illuminor. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, the Harbaughs like the 300 coming like you do, and when you have a young quarterback, you want to protect him, and that's obvious. All you have to do is look at what the Giants did to Daniel Jones, and you don't want to make the same mistake with Jackson Dart. So, the line of scrimmage is extremely important for our team. Without question. Jason, thank you, man. He says, this coaching staff will be the best we've had since Coughlin Spags. I think he meant Gilbride, maybe. 2007 to 2009. This coaching staff isn't playing around and wants to win now.
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh is only on a 5-year contract. He doesn't have 18 years to take his time and turn this thing around. Like he said it in his press conference, the expectation is to win. And I think as fans, we got to strive and have that expectation too. They paid John Harbaugh. He's one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL. He has experience to back it up. That's great. But he's bringing in an entirely new coaching staff that, yes, some of them have worked together before. Some of them have not. They've got the 5th overall pick. They've got some money to spend in free agency. There is some talent, but the expectation is you are coming in here and you are winning games in September, October, November. Like if we are talking about the draft again in November, there's a problem because Harbaugh also got allotted millions of dollars to create this massive staff. So you're bringing in all these people who have experience and are supposedly, hopefully like the best of the best. You got to win games starting in September. Like if they go 1-3 in September, like I think it's fair to be agree
There'll be negativity for sure. I mean, it depends on who those teams are that we're 1-3 against and how the team looks. But yeah, I agree that the expectations have to be significant. They will, rightfully so, will be significantly higher next year. You got Dart year 2. You brought in one of the better coaches in the league. Yeah, we should all be thinking this team should compete for the playoffs going into next year.
Yeah, without question. They didn't bring in Harbaugh here to rebuild this thing. The Giants feel like they have got, like I said, the core to do it, and now they have the coach to do it. And we've watched the Bears turn it around in a year, the Jags turn it around in a year, and obviously the Patriots turn it around in a year. And maybe we don't turn it around in 1 year, but you definitely want to turn it around by year 2. I mean, we're going to turn it around somewhat. We're not winning 3 fucking games again, better not. Or that'll be a really bad look. And I think they're way too good to win 3 games again. I don't think that shit's going to happen. But, yeah. They're not messing around. The Giants did a lot of different things this year, thought outside of the box for the first time in a long time, and it shows that they're ready to move in a different direction, ready to start winning some football games. Jason, thank you again, buddy. We really appreciate it. He says Jermaine was a top 10 in pass protection win rates. Can't let that walk. We want Dart to continue to feel comfortable in the pocket he's also a fan favorite.
If what Anthony said about, and I disagree with what Connor Hughes had to say, I don't think that will be Jermaine Illuminor's market. But if that is Jermaine Illuminor's market, the Giants would be fools not to bring him back. But maybe it doesn't approach 20 to 21 because of his age. But I have to think it's upper teens. Right tackle is such an important position. And like Jason said, he was at least at a bare minimum was a slightly above average right tackle in the NFL last year. And when a slightly above average right tackle hits free agency, they get paid handsomely. We witnessed it as Giants fans with Nate Solder. Granted, he was a left tackle, but he wasn't all world with the Patriots. He was solid. He was good. And he got paid as the highest paid tackle in football when he hit the open market. So I'd be stunned if Illuminor was in the $10 million range, like you said. I think it'll be upper teens to possibly lower 20s.
I agree, and I really do hope that he's in that range, that the Giants bring him back. But just playing devil's advocate here, he is top 10 in pass pro win rate. He's very good in that regard, but he's not a great run blocker. And I think this Giants team is going to run the shit out of the football this year. Bringing in Greg Roman was probably the second signal. I even think Matt Nagy was the first signal that they're going to run the ball because he liked to run the ball. He didn't have good run schemes, and he didn't have a lot of success running the ball when he was in Chicago, but he likes to run the ball. And Greg Roman, Mike Bloomgren, all of these guys, if they're being brought in, yes, to maximize Jackson Dart, as I said earlier, but I think they're going to do that by having a smash mouth downhill running game to open up the passing game and play action for Jackson Dart. So I think this is going to be, in many ways, a Cam Scadaboo and Tyron Tracy show next year. I think they're going to run the football a lot. And so there is an outside chance. I think that's why they're so interested in Tyler Linderbaum, according to the reports, because he's an elite run blocker. I think there is an outside chance that maybe they view Jermaine Illuminor as no longer being a scheme fit. They might go in a different direction and try and bring in a guy who's a really good run blocker. But I think that it's too much of a risk. I would absolutely re-sign Jermaine Illuminor. He is a great locker room guy, and he is a great pass protector, and he's familiar with the rest of the guys in the group.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony. Maybe I'm misremembering, but wasn't Brasillo at least a decent, one of the bigger reasons why Illuminor signed here in the first place? Because he obviously played there with him with the Raiders. So who's to say that Illuminor looks at this offensive line coach and says, this is my best ideal fit? I know he says that he loves playing for the New York Giants, but he could very well follow Brasillo. So that you have to factor in the player's interest as well. I know that he says he loves being a Giant, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's coming back here.
Barkley said that too. So
yeah,
that's very true, especially because the Titans have a shit ton of cap space. I think they have the most in the NFL. So if they want to overpay Jermaine Illuminor, for example, they'll outbid the Giants with ease. The Giants have $6 million in cap space this offseason. They're going to have to make a ton of moves just to afford a guy like Illuminor. Meanwhile, the Titans don't have to do anything. They can just drop a bag on him. Plus, I think there's a double argument there. Not only could Illuminor be interested in following Brasillo, Brasillo has been coaching this guy even before he was on the Raiders. I think people forget all the way back to his Patriots days. They've been together for over half a decade now. They've been working together. So he really might want to follow Brasillo, but so might Greg Van Roten. If Greg Van Roten quickly signs over with the Titans to join Brasillo, Jermaine Illuminor might say, well, I can continue that continuity with Brasillo and Greg Van Roten. That sounds pretty good for me. Let me go cash in with this team that has a bunch of cap space. So it's totally a possibility. I think that's a really good point to bring up Brasillo being in Tennessee as a potential threat to the Giants re-signing Illuminor.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We don't have a lot of cap space, and money talks. These guys can sit there and say, yeah, we want to be Giants, but let's face it. I mean, you want to make your money when you can make it. Nobody blames them for that. Without question. Again, if you guys and girls are enjoying the show, if you could hit the thumbs up for us, it helps a lot. Subscribe to the channel. That also helps. Want to give a big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring tonight's show. Guys and girls, check out Sleeper. They got 2 brand new things there. They got a brand new predictions market. That's always a lot of fun. So check that out. You can also now pick teams if you want. Like I said, say you want to take the Spurs tonight because the Lakers aren't playing any of their starters. You can do that. You can pick any team that you like. Of course, they always have their daily fantasy contests. They have over-under on statistics, and they have a whole hell of a lot more you can do on Sleeper. That's why it's the fastest growing app out there. Use our link in the description. Enter the promo code HMA on your first deposit for a 100% match deposit bonus. And on top of that, if you don't have a Sleeper account, you want to try it out, and you want to try out the new predictions market and the pick and the teams, click the link in the description, open a brand new account. They're going to give you $20 to try it out. Terms and conditions apply. And just remember that past results don't guarantee future success when you play that predictions market. But check out Sleeper. It is a lot of fun without question. Jason, thank you again. He says, I can see the Niners signing Bellinger for that offense.
Yeah, I could
I
say
don't think it was going to end up.
sure.
Not sure. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But I don't think he's coming back here. I'll be shocked if the Giants sign him.
Unless he has no market, but I think he will. I'm not saying he's going to get paid a boatload of money, but I think he's a decent to solid tight end. I think somebody will be willing to give him.
But not the. I don't think he's coming back here.
No, I don't think he'll be a Giant. I'd be surprised.
I just, like I said, James Hudson, you can kiss him goodbye. That's $5.5 million. He ain't coming back here. Graham Gano is $4.5 million. That's $10 million between those two guys. They're gone. Neither one of those guys are coming back here. The other two really interesting ones, in my opinion, Bobby Okereke. It's $9 million if you cut him. That's a lot. And if the Giants do want to, I'm not saying it's got to be Nakobe Dean, but if you want to sign another linebacker, obviously you can use that money for that as well. And then, the Kayvon Thibodeau thing is the most interesting because Adriana mentioned it earlier. I've mentioned it a bunch. I don't think they're going to give him $20 million a year on a contract extension. I'll be shocked if they do it. So why would you hang on to him? It doesn't make any sense. And if you cut him or you trade him, you're saving almost $15 million. If he's not part of your future, then you might as well cash in on that right now. But again, we've also discussed maybe they wait until the year starts, and if they kind of fall out of it, they get rid of him. But I don't think they want to fall out of it. I think they want to be there and talk about maybe he really improves his value, but maybe he doesn't. So again, man, I think he's the most interesting piece going forward to see exactly how the Giants want to handle that. But I don't see Kayvon, and it's not that I don't like Kayvon. I don't think he's going to be worth the money that they'd have to pay him, especially when you drafted Abdul Carter and you got Brian Burns. It's just I feel like he's maybe not expendable is a bad word for it, but I feel like you can move him for a couple of draft picks or maybe a player that you could use on a different part of your team, a different position. So that's just something to look at. I think that's interesting. I think he's the most interesting facet of this offseason to see which direction they go with Kayvon.
Yeah, and I have no track record to go off with the new defensive coordinator, but his specialties in the secondary too. I could, and you can make the argument either way. Like we discussed last time Anthony was on the show, you could argue that they may not allocate a lot of resources to the secondary because he may improve the secondary that they have. But you could also argue that long-term vision, they may prioritize the secondary more than, necessarily the defensive line. And like you said, paying 3 edge rushers is going to be hard to do. Like I pulled up Brian Burns' contract right now. His contract is set to expire in 2028 when he's going to be 30. So you're still on the books for him for another 2 years after this year. I'm sure if you really wanted to extend Kayvon, you could make it work in terms of the structuring of the contract. But then you got to worry about Jackson Dart, of course. You got to worry about Malik Neighbors, Abdul Carter. So there's only so much money to go around. So I think if the right deal presents itself, I could definitely see the Giants trading Kayvon at some point. But I think it's in their best interest to let him play the beginning of the year to see if he gets off to a good start because he's coming off an injury right now. And I feel like his value is not as high as you would like it to be.
Yeah. Like I said, I think he's the most interesting player this offseason. Big Blue. Thank you, buddy. He says Giants may take a wide receiver with the 5th pick, probably Carnell Tate, or later maybe Chris Brazzell.
Yeah, maybe this is a hot take, and I've seen a lot of mocks. I've been looking at them the last week or so. I don't think we're taking a receiver. And obviously I could get the argument to take one there, and we all got to see what they do in free agency before the draft. I really don't feel like they're taking a receiver. I'm leaning that pick's going to be line or defense. When I look at what his brother did when he went to the Chargers, everybody said, oh, look at the Chargers offense. They have to take a receiver. They have nobody. He ended up taking the tackle with Joel, even when he already had Slater on the roster. You look at what the Patriots did this past year. Everybody said, oh, my God, they need a receiver to help out Drake May. They ended up taking a tackle with the 4th overall pick. Maybe I'll be dead wrong. I don't think we're taking a receiver with that pick. I think it'll be tackle or defense. Wide
receiver doesn't seem like a typical Harbaugh pick at number 5.
No.
So I tend to.
We have Neighbors who we took with the 6th overall pick recently.
Right, but that wasn't Harbaugh that did that.
No, I know, but he's on the roster.
Yeah, but the problem with Neighbors is again. I mean, we can talk about that. Yeah, the other teams didn't have any wide receivers, but I mean, we really don't have wide receivers. Like it's really bad right now. But I will also I'd be very surprised if they use number 5 on a wide receiver. Just knowing Harbaugh's track record, he and his brother do like to build the offensive line. So, and obviously Hamilton was 14th overall, but I mean, what a great pick that was. The dude's been a 3-time All-Pro, and he just got paid $100 million. It's like the highest freaking contract ever for a safety. So, yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I think it's O-line or.
That's not to say I don't think they need to address wide receiver like we've talked about. They need to, whether it be to trade for a vet, bring Wandell back, and still, if they don't take a wide receiver round 1, they still definitely need to take one day 2 probably. But I don't think they'll take one at 5.
I agree. I'm really starting to lean towards them taking, like Chris said, either defense, either Caleb Downs or Francis Mauigoa.
Yeah, I mean, if they could get Mauigoa, that'd be fucking incredible. I don't think he's getting past Tennessee. I think with them having, and of course, unless they sign Jermaine Illuminor, then maybe that does take him out of the market for him. But if you have that 4th pick and you don't have to give Illuminor $12 million, $15 million a year, and you could get a young guy in a rookie contract and not have to pay a guy in his 30s for your young quarterback and Cameron Ward, and you're going to have your right tackle for the next 5 years. I think that makes more sense for Tennessee, but who am I to say? I don't know what they're going to do, but I would love them to pass on him and let the Giants have him.
That'd be great.
That'd be fantastic. Rich, thank you so much. He says, if it isn't Downs, round 2 wide receiver re-signed Wandell Robinson, Jermaine Illuminor, and Flott, signing defensive tackle and likely maybe keep Greg Van Roten or a 4th round guard over drafting O-line high, then you're wrong.
If it isn't, let me read that again. If it isn't Downs, round 2 wide receiver. Oh, so he's saying all right, he wants Downs round 1, wide receiver round 2. So he's saying that would be the plan, over drafting O-line. I mean, we got to see how free agency plays out before we could really say what the Giants need to do early on in the draft, because we'll see how they address the needs in free agency. But I don't think there's one perfect way to go about it. If they think Downs is a transformative player, yeah, I expect them to probably take Downs. If they think he's a gold jacket player and they bring back Illuminor, but we got to see how the plan unravels before the draft.
And I really like Caleb Downs, and I think he could be that difference maker. He's really good against the run. He's a good hitter, and he's definitely the best safety in this class. And a lot of people like to connect him to a Kyle Hamilton or try and compare him to Emin Warrior with the Seahawks. Hamilton and Emin Warrior are both 6'4". Caleb Downs is 6 feet tall. It's a big difference. Like, he isn't the mutant that those guys are physically. So even though he's got a similar skill set and he can be used in a similar way as a box safety that rotates into the slot, then rotates into the free safety role, he does all those things, but he's not going to be able to do it the same way that Harbaugh was doing it with Kyle Hamilton, despite the overlapping skill set that they have, just because of the physical skill set.
Yeah. Again, we've discussed this. The free agency is going to tell us a lot, I think, of which direction we go in the draft. Not guaranteed, but I think we'll have a better idea once we know where they're allocating their money to in free agency. DRL family says, is Galladay available? They got jokes.
Pretty sure he's available.
Yeah, pretty sure. And he can stay available. We don't need him. He can go hang out with Kadarius Toney, and they can maybe do a rap duo or something. Not that Galladay's a rapper, but
he would have been a better rapper than a Giant. He couldn't.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Darren Waller's not very good at what he did either, but I guess he's a better singer than he was a Giant. Tony still isn't a better rapper than he was a Giant. My God, and his rap is just it's disgraceful that you could even record that shit and call it rap. Of course, I come to the 90s. It was much better back then. David, thank you so much. He says, could they give a 2027 first or second to convince the team to take Darius Slayton off our hands?
Well, the good news is Slayton's only going to be here one more year.
Yeah.
They're going to cut
out.
Yeah, they're going to cut bait after next year.
It's crazy to think, like I said, I thought Slayton was going over 1,000 yards. Thought he would have a big year opposite Malik Neighbors. Now, of course, Neighbors got hurt in game 3, but Slayton just had a lot of drops. He was injured a couple times. Granted, he did get fucking screwed on a couple of big touchdown passes where they called offensive pass interference, which was total horse shit. He's shown flashes of being okay, but he's not a pure number 2 receiver. Like, he's more of a depth piece. And, I understand why they signed him back, but he hasn't lived up to it. And yeah, I think next year is his last year here. I'd be surprised if they brought him back past 2027, but we will see. And with that said, that brings us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. As always, we appreciate you tuning in on this Tuesday. If you haven't done so, hit the thumbs up for us because it helps the stream out. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, check us out on TikTok and Instagram. You can also check us out wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, of course, Apple. If you listen to us on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That also helps us out big. Big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring Giants Collective. As always, again, check them out. Enter the promo code HMA to get a 100% match deposit bonus on your first deposit. Use the link in the description to open a brand new Sleeper account and get a free $20 to play the prediction market, daily fantasy contests, over-under on stats, and a whole lot more on Sleeper. So, again, we're about a month out for free agency when we're really going to start ramping it up again, and it should be a lot of fun at that point. So, for all drowning down there, Anthony over there, Chris down in the corner, it's the Bad Diggity Dizzle. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you next time. We out. Peace.